everybody, and welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your questions. I'm Ashley Mova, and if you've got a question that you want answered on air, send it over anytime to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. You could get it answered on Movie Talk or Mailbag, and sitting with me to answer some of those questions is the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, John Campea. John, what's up?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. So glad to be doing Mailbag this weekend.
Me too.
I love the weekends. I really do.
Saturday. Yay. All right, first question comes from Amira Ahmed, and they write, "Hey, AMC Movie News. Really curious, will there be a Top Gun 2?
Straight to the point, asking the question.
Thank you.
The short answer to that is simply I don't know. Now, wheels had started to be put in motion for a Top Gun 2 years ago, and then the tragedy with Tony Scott happened. And that kind of threw everything to disarray. And quite frankly, a lot of people thought, well, that pretty much puts the nail in it. There's not going to be a Top Gun 2. But it never went away. There always kept some talking and some rumbling. And I think the guy who was working, I forget the guy's name, who was working on the script for Tony Scott, I think he completed his draft. And that didn't really go anywhere, but still the project didn't go away. Now, the last I heard was 9 months ago maybe, a screenwriter by the name of Justin Marks, who just finished writing, well, not just finished writing, but he had just written the screenplay for Jon Favreau's upcoming Jungle Book incarnation, which I believe he's shooting right now. I'm not really sure. But anyway, that the studio had approached him to write a new draft of Top Gun 2, suggesting that, at least in the studio's eyes, this thing ain't dead yet. I mean, but that being said, I have heard nothing since. Jerry Bruckheimer is still technically attached to produce, but other than people who say Tom Cruise is interested, nothing else has come out. So that could mean a couple different things. It might mean that they have a script and they're just, it's sitting on the shelf right now, and they intend to do it. They're just going to wait for the right time. It could mean that they said, you know what, let's just cut our losses. It would have been great had Tony still been around, and we had the momentum going 5 years ago, whatever, but that ship has sailed, and maybe it's done. I simply do not know. From what I understand, the intention is still to make one. There's just nothing in the etched in stone right now.
Who do you think would direct if there would be one?
Man, I mean, there would be a couple of different options here. If you wanted to go poetic, you get his brother. I mean, you get Ridley Scott to come in and do it. And I actually think that would be really quite good. Now, I haven't liked a Ridley Scott film in a long time. But this would be one that if Ridley Scott were to be able to do it, just the sentimentality of it alone instantly gets my attention. And I would be very interested in seeing that. There's a couple of very good action directors out there right now that could probably pull it off, but I'm going to stick with my first gut instinct. If they could pull anybody in, and I just had my pick about who I think would be the right fit to do it, be appropriate to do it, I would love to see Ridley Scott do it.
I really like that because it's like paying tribute without doing it kind of cheesy. It's like a nice way of paying tribute.
Well, it's paying tribute without, like, it's not as if, Tony Scott's brother was some schlub who still lives in their mom's basement and, collects baseball cards. I mean, it's like, let's get him to direct it.
No offense to anyone who does that, by the way.
It happens to be Ridley Scott. So, you got a good heads up there.
All right. Charles C. Nelson writes, I've been enjoying the show since the Man of Steel review, and I'm still loving it. My question is that, do you think Disney will ever turn any of the Ghibli films, such as Totoro, Mononoke, and Castle in the Sky, into live action movies? What do you think? And bring on the filthy.
Well, Studio Ghibli, they just turn out some just constantly great stuff. Well, first of all, you got to ask the question, would Disney even have the rights to do it? But would they be interested? Here's the thing. Studio Ghibli films, and a lot of the ones you mentioned here, are fantastic, awe-inspiring. Many of the films that you listed were in our animated movie madness tournament that we had in our top 32, and they're fantastic. Let's take Howl's Moving Castle. Let's use Howl's Moving Castle for a second. How do you shoot that live action? Seriously, how do you shoot Howl's Moving Castle live action? How do you do, like, faithfully? How do you do Totoro? How do you do that one? How do you do, Princess Mononoke? How do you do that? I don't know that you do. Look, I don't believe everything or anything should be translated into live action. There are some movies that are created specifically for a certain media. And the medium that Ghibli films just thrive in is animation. That's where their imaginations come alive. So is it possible? It's absolutely possible. However, I don't think it's likely. And more important than that, I don't even think I want them to do it. Like, now, if you want to talk to me about like a Princess Mononoke remake, animated in a Disney style in a North American, made by a North American studio, I think that could be fascinating. I think that could be interesting. There are Studio Ghibli fans out there who are just screaming sacrilege at their computer monitors right now. But I think that would be worth a shot. But I believe they created these films and these stories specifically with the medium of animation in mind. And that's where I think they belong.
I've heard so much talk about these Ghibli movies because I think probably because of the animated thing that we did.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to get into these kind of movies, I've never seen one. So where should I start? Which one?
I really think Howl's Moving Castle is a great one to start with.
Everyone talks about the Princess Mononoke though.
That is also great. My feeling is if you've never seen one and you want to get started with one, I think Howl's Moving Castle there's so much wonder in it. And I love that movie.
Right.
I just love that movie. I think it's a great one to start with.
Okay, I'll check it out. Haytch New writes, "Hi, John and crew. I have a fun question for y'all. If one day you get a call from Disney to attend a test screening for Star Wars The Force Awakens months before its release, would you go see it or wait until its official release in December and experience the film with the public? Thanks and keep up the amazing work."
You know, I think Haytch New must have been watching us for a while since our Superman Returns review or Man of Steel review, I should say, because Man of Steel was coming out and I was so excited for that movie, so excited for it. And I kind of made a big deal. I'm skipping all the press screenings. I'm not going to go to any press screening. I'm not going to go to any advanced screening. I was so excited for it. I had decided I'm going to wait till opening night and I'm going to go and watch this movie opening night with a real audience and all that kind of stuff. And I'm glad I did because I love Man of Steel. I love that movie a lot more than most people do. I think it's a brilliant film. Nope. JJ calls me 5 minutes from now.
Jay, what up, Jay?
Yo, Jay, what's up? And he says, "Hey, you want to come over and watch my first completed cut of Star Wars?" And he says, "Now, I understand you, John. You like to watch it with the real audience." Yeah, screw with the real audience. I'm coming over right now. Star Wars? Are you kidding me? I'd crawl over my own mother.
You're terrible.
And I don't feel bad about that because my mother would crawl over me. If the situation were reversed, my mother would crawl over me to get to JJ's house to watch the first draft of the new Star Wars film. Are you kidding me? My mom's a huge Star Wars fan. But like that, I couldn't. I just couldn't resist. There's no way on earth I would be able to resist that. Star Wars is just too important to me. Look, you know what? I'm not going to say that. But to simply answer your question, would I forego the movie-going experience with a real audience and a real opening night in that great environment to see it early in some dark living room? Yes.
Imagine having to keep your mouth shut for months, though. And coming here every day and talking Star Wars news, and you're sort of like, guys, guess what happens?
Oh, I'd be rubbing it in everybody's face. I'd be in here every day. Hey, guess what, Christian? Hey, guess what?
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I would have to risk it that I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut. I'm pretty good at keeping my mouth shut, though. You guys don't know half the stuff I get to see in advance, but I'm pretty good at keeping my mouth shut. But yeah, should the opportunity avail itself, and JJ, I know JJ is watching. He's not watching, but JJ, I know you're watching. That means don't feel intimidated. Don't worry that I don't know if I should invite John Campea because he might turn it down. If you got that fear of rejection, JJ, don't you worry about it. I'll be there. I will bring the Doritos. I'll bring a 2-liter Diet Pepsi, and we'll be good to go.
All right, Brad Welborn writes, "Hey guys, love the show. Blah, blah, blah." I love that. I love that. So I was debating with a friend of mine about some of the most underrated / forgotten movies of all time. I'm just going to throw mine out there. The Edge with Anthony Hopkins. Totally underrated. Anyone agree? Thanks. Keep up the great work, you spicy dolphin riders.
You damn right that's an underrated movie. I love The Edge. As a matter of fact, until I saw Stardust, I always said that The Edge to me was the most underrated, underappreciated film. And then I saw Stardust and it took that place. But The Edge is so brilliant. It does what a lot of Asian films do in the sense that I find that Asian filmmakers are more tuned into the fact that tension and atmosphere. That's the better word. That atmosphere is a character in your movie. Use the atmosphere to help you tell your story. And especially that shows in their horror films a lot. Whereas North American horror filmmakers have no sense of subtlety. Like they don't understand how to use atmosphere. And there are some great North American horror films, but I just feel like the Asian horror film directors really get that sense of how to use atmosphere. And even though The Edge isn't truly a horror film per se, man, they use it's all about atmosphere. Basically the whole movie is 4 characters. Okay, you got Anthony Hopkins. You got Alec Baldwin, you got Harold Perrineau, and you got a bear, and they're your 4. And then it's the woods and it's the wilderness that they're trapped in. If you guys don't know much about The Edge, basically, I won't spoil the setup or anything, but in this movie, a plane goes down, a little private plane goes down in the middle of the wilderness with Anthony Hopkins, Harold Perrineau, and Alec Baldwin. If you don't know the name Harold Perrineau, don't worry about it. But he's the guy who played the wheelchair dude in Oz. He also played Mr. Pope in Sons of Anarchy. He was one of the buddies in Romeo and Juliet. He's all over the place. But anyway, and the 3 of them, their plane goes down, and a bear gets on their trail. And it's just about them at that point trying to survive the wilderness. And then some drama comes up between the characters. I won't go into it, but I'm telling you, you're on the edge of your seat. You're on the edge of your seat, this movie. If you have not seen The Edge, highly recommend it. Find a way to watch it. It must be on Amazon or Netflix or something somewhere. Find a way to watch it. Treat yourself. Grab a bag of popcorn. Grab your favorite girl, your favorite guy, whatever. Sit down, turn off the lights, and watch this movie. You're going to have a great time.
You make it sound so good.
It is so good. It's a really great movie. Well done.
I was looking up some underrated movies, and a really random one came up. It was like the only animated one I saw, Monsters University, which is strange that they bring that up because I love Monsters, Inc. I didn't love Monsters University, but it was a prequel, and I think that that's really, you're not a fan of prequels usually, but what do you think of Monsters University?
You know what? I was very pleasantly surprised by Monsters University. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Was it as good as the original? No, It wasn't. But I'm going to do a video editorial on this someday, but I really think there is this really unfortunate mindset out there that if something that is a sequel or a remake or whatever comes out and it's not as good as the first one or not as good as the original, that simply a lot of people then discount it completely.
So true.
And that's ridiculous. If something comes out that's, a 9 and then something comes out following it that's an 8.5, that thing's an 8.5. That's awesome. But instead people just completely shove it away and reject it because it's not as good as the first. Well, who cares if it's not as good as the first, Is it good? That's the only question I ask. And Monsters University to me is one of those examples where it's a really delightful, charming, funny. Any of you who have been to college, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to completely instantly recognize and point at and go, that's totally what I would do. It's really charming, really well done. Now, here's the thing though. I always thought, this isn't a spoiler because this doesn't happen at the end of the movie, all right? This is my wish. I always thought the perfect ending to Monsters University. You and I might have talked about this.
I think I know what you're going to say.
I always thought the perfect ending to Monsters University would have been, as the story's ending, then have the camera pan up from a bedroom floor and have Sully and, what's the other?
Mike.
Mike and Sully are actually in, what's the big kids? Boo. I was going to say Boo Bop. Why was I going to say?
I like that too.
Why was I going to say Boo Bop? Anyway, Boo. They're in Boo's bedroom telling her the story because she's leaving for college.
I love that.
Tell me there wouldn't have been tears.
Cry.
Totally cry, right?
Cry for days.
I don't know why they didn't do that. I think it was like it was begging for that.
It would have been that much better. I did enjoy watching it though.
I did too.
All right, Trevor Fleckleton writes, "Hey, Movie Talk, great job on the show, and I love what you're doing. Straight to it. After seeing Avengers Age of Ultron, the one critique I had, and that I've heard from many other reviewers, no spoilers, is that it felt very, very full of lots of things to move the overall MCU forward. It seemed like Joss Whedon was burdened with almost single-handedly setting up both Civil War and Infinity War storylines. With that in mind, Iron Man 3, while a huge commercial success, really didn't do much to move forward the overall story story of the MCU like Thor 2 or Captain America 2. In fact, if you took it out completely, it wouldn't really affect the MCU at all. Did Iron Man 3 waste Marvel's slate time and overburden all the other movies with plot details?
Okay, first of all, I mean, Iron Man 3 is a very divisive film. I did not like Iron Man 2 at all. I enjoyed Iron Man 3. I had a good time with Iron Man 3, as a matter of fact. I thought it was pretty good. Now, a lot of people were very... how many years has it been since Iron Man 3 came out?
It was 2013, 2014.
It could have been 2014, maybe 2013. It's been a few years. But this is a spoiler, but I'm sure you've heard this on the chat boards already, okay? Okay, ready? I just gave you a warning. Just gave you a warning, bit of a spoiler, okay? I just gave you the warning. So fast forward 15 seconds. Here's the spoiler. You know, Ben Kingsley isn't the real Mandarin. Okay, so a lot of people were just, on that one fact, were very turned off of the movie because of that. They felt like there was a big bait and switch in the marketing. And I can actually, there's some issues that people get their panties in a twist over and get really mad about. And I go, come on, get over yourself. And I just do not see where they're coming from. This is one of those things where I get where they're coming from. I really do. I understand. For me personally, it didn't bother me, but I totally understand somebody who looked at that whole bait and switch situation and did feel upset by it. But it didn't bother me, and I actually ended up enjoying Iron Man 3. I did not think it was as good as Iron Man 1, nearly as good as Iron Man 1, but I thought it was a marked improvement over Iron Man 2. So all that out of the way, here's the thing about this notion of was Iron Man 3 then a waste of a movie for Marvel, since it didn't move the overall MCU story forward? Who cares? One of my worries, actually, about the whole MCU and everything has to be in a shared universe now, whether it's Marvel or DC, everything's got to be shared universe. One of the things that I've always been worried about is that we are going to lose the art of the one-shot movie. What is wrong with Iron Man 3 just being an Iron Man movie? Although then some people may argue that there wasn't a lot of Iron Man in it. Granted, that's another discussion for another time. But whatever happened to the idea of just having a good one-shot movie? Why does every movie now have to contribute to the overall Marvel storyline? It doesn't have to. Just let the movie happen and enjoy it for what it is. And that's why I don't think it's happening now. But there was some mystery going around for a little bit about this whole The Rock in the Shazam movie for DC, right? Some things were said that, construed certain ways, could have been interpreted as that Shazam was actually going to be outside of the DC cinematic universe. That Shazam was just going to be in his own world without all these other superheroes. And I got to admit, there was something to that felt really refreshing to me. It's like, really? A superhero where he's actually special? Because now, like, oh, you can lift a car over your head? There's 75 other heroes in our Marvel Cinematic Universe down the street that can do the same thing. Like, there's something, it struck me as something really special that to have this extraordinary being in a world of the ordinary, right? And I like that idea. And that way it also gave him the ability to not have to worry about setting up this and setting up that. Who cares about setting up something else? Just tell a good one-shot story and let it exist that way. So, look, if you want to look at it that way, did Iron Man 3 push the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe storyline forward? No, it didn't. But who cares? It didn't need to. It just needed to be a good movie. Now, whether you thought it was a good movie or not, that's a totally different issue. Absolutely. But I enjoyed the film for what it was. I didn't care that it didn't. Well, why didn't it explain to us what happened to Captain America? Because it's Iron Man 3. It's not Captain America 2, So that's how I personally feel about it.
It's really interesting when I've talked to directors and junkets and asked them about, do they have sequels in mind and that kind of thing? They always say, I just worked on this movie to work on this movie. If a sequel comes, if other parts come, then sure, I'll take that as it comes. But working on this movie, I just wanted to take that into consideration. I think it's probably really frustrating to directors that they always have to, when there's a slate and stuff, it's probably frustrating to them to have to keep other movies in mind. I saw a quote that someone wrote. It's really harsh. And they said, Avengers Age of Ultron isn't a movie. It's an advertisement for, and they write a bunch of numbers, other Marvel movies. Isn't that a little bit harsh?
That's too harsh and too simplistic. Yeah. Too simplistic. Actually, Ultron is a great movie. I thought it was a really, really good movie. I had fun
watching it.
I don't think it was necessarily as good as the first one. Going back to the whole thing. If it's not as good as the first one, then everybody just discounts it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really great. But I think there is legitimate criticism there that there was a lot of the movie that is positioning itself for the future, but I don't think all that much. When you really look about it, because I won't give it away, but because the post-credit scene had that guy, you think that made the whole movie just a setup for something else? You think just because Cap and Tony have that one discussion while chopping wood, that just I disagree with the sentiment. It's a fair criticism, but I disagree with the criticism because really most of that movie is just focused on Ultron. And I was totally good with that personally. Not that there aren't other things to be critical about the movie. If that's how you feel, that's totally cool and fine. But I don't feel that Age of Ultron was just an advertisement for the future films.
Right there with you. Daniel Alvarado writes, hey guys, this week Universal has released 8 different TV spots for Jurassic World during the NBA playoffs showing new scenes. For this film coming out in less than a month, are you guys still hyped up to see this movie, or has the 8 different TV spots been lowering your expectations / excitement? I love the show so much. You guys are all awesome.
Thank you so much. Well, here's the thing. I wasn't even aware that they released 8 new commercials. You know why? Because I don't care about commercials. I don't care if Spider-Man puts out 45 commercials. I don't care if Avengers puts out 32 commercials. I don't care if Jurassic Park puts out 8 commercials. I don't go looking for the commercials to watch them. I don't. Trailers come out, like actual 2-minute theatrically released trailers come out. I will go and hunt those down and make sure I watch them. New TV spots, if they come in front of me and someone pops in front of me, I'll watch it. If there's something really exceptional or very key, I'll give it a chance. But for the most part, 90% of the time, new TV spots, I don't care. I really don't care about them. I don't go hunting out. And so, since I haven't even seen these TV spots you're talking about, it hasn't affected my anticipation of Jurassic Park at all. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, though, about this. The one thing that has affected me, it has me a little bit nervous about Jurassic World, is that I was really excited to see Chris Pratt, who I adore. Everybody knows I love Chris Pratt. I've been really excited about seeing him play, because in that first trailer, it's like he seems darker. He seems brooding a bit. Like, this is a dude who deals with these killer monsters all day, and he's even tamed some of them. I mean, I was looking forward, and we've never seen him play that kind of a role. And I was looking forward to seeing that. And then that clip got released where he's talking to Howard, Bryce Dallas Howard. He's talking to Bryce Dallas Howard. And he's like, come on, they're thinking they got to eat, they got to hunt, you got to be able to relate at least one of those things, right? And I was like, don't get me wrong, I love Star-Lord, but I didn't want to see Star-Lord in Jurassic World, So that part has me a little bit nervous, but it's nervous. It's not like, oh, that means this movie's going to be bad. No.
Right.
I'm still looking forward to this movie. I'm very excited for Jurassic World. I can't believe how close we are to it finally coming out. Right. But that was the one thing. TV commercials, they don't bother me. You can put 100 of them. They don't bother me because I'm not even going to watch them probably.
Yeah, and I don't even know why anyone's watching the NBA playoffs when the Lakers aren't in there.
That's my one. That's a good reason to watch them. Thank you. That was such bait. That was bait.
I know. I know. I'm going to get asked for that, but it is what it is. I think that there are a few movies, though, that people are just going to see them no matter what. And this is one of those movies, I think. So, I mean, no matter what anyone released, I feel like everyone's going to go see this.
Well,
this is so...
I mean, I'm not so sure.
Really?
I think a lot of people are going to go see this movie because it is looking good. It's looking good. But if there hadn't been Jurassic Park 2 and Jurassic Park 3, maybe we could say today, hey, at Jurassic World, people are just going to go to that regardless. It didn't end on a strong note, and it's been a while. And so I don't think this is look, Pirates of the Caribbean, people are going to that no matter what. Because they put out crappy film after crappy film other than the first one, which I love. I love the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I think the first one's awesome. But then it's just been garbage ever since. And yet they still go out in droves. A new Star Wars film. That's going to make, Star Wars, I've said this before, but it's true. Star Wars, from now until December, could put out no more commercials and just put out one trailer of J.J. Abrams scratching himself with like a spatula while looking at the camera and sticking his tongue out.
So true.
He could do that, and Star Wars will still make minimum 140 million opening
and
weekends.
It'll make people more excited, which is like the sickening part.
And it makes them more excited.
I need to see this movie.
Yeah, people are so there are movies like that. I don't think Jurassic World is on that level yet, but I mean, there's certainly a certain segment of people are going to go out to see it. I do think they needed to make good trailers to really, because I think the name, okay, you got my attention. And then the good trailer is just like, okay, now you've got me hooked. Now I'll go see it. And so that's the way I think it's going to work out.
Colin Llewellyn writes, love this show and I haven't missed an episode since I started watching in March. My question is this, did Marvel miss an opportunity to diversify their Avengers roster by casting another white male? I know they wanted Peter Parker, but it could have been a great statement to cast a black Peter Parker. Any thoughts?
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm going to say I'm going to make nobody happy with what I'm about to say. Everybody's going to be mad at what I'm going to say, no matter which side of the thing you come on, and I really don't give a crap. So here's the thing. I have never had a problem with changing
your
ethnicity. Well said. I have never had a problem with changing ethnicities of characters if their ethnicity is not a core, key, a social, like important, essential element to who that character is. Now, you get Black Panther. His ethnicity is a core, essential part of who that character is. However, Kingpin, for example, him being white or black or Latino or Asian, whatever, it had no bearing whatsoever on who that character was. And so when that Ben Affleck Daredevil movie came out and they got the great Michael Clark Duncan, and rest in peace, to play that role, I had no problem with it at first before I even saw it. And I actually thought he did really good as Kingpin. I liked Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin, right? I had absolutely no problem with them going Samuel L. Jackson for Nick Fury. I had absolutely no problem in the world with them going with Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch. I think that's fine. That's great. Here's the thing though. I am also, at the same time that I say that, I'm all other things being equal, go with has been established in the source material.
Right.
All things being equal, but hey, you want to switch it up with Fantastic Four, bring in Michael B. Jordan, say Dr. Storm is actually a black family and Sue Storm is actually the adopted one in it. And you want to go that way? Hey, you got me interested. That sounds cool. That sounds great. Let's do it. But at the same time, I'm not of the opinion that we need to go out of our way to do that just for the sake of doing it. Clearly in the Fantastic Four, at least to me, it appears clear that them changing the ethnicities here and there, that is actually going to be serving the direction they want their story to go in. So that makes sense to me. Go for it. It doesn't mean, though, that I think studios should, although if they want to, I have no problem with it, but I don't think they necessarily should be pressured to go out of their way to change ethnicities of characters just for the sake of changing ethnicities of characters. Is there, and remember, Marvel right now, is this a spoiler? Okay, fast forward 30 seconds. If you don't want to hear any spoiler, look, everybody who watches our show has seen Age of Ultron already, but in case you haven't, fast forward 30 seconds, okay? Ready? Go. Fast forward 30 seconds. As of right now, the Avengers, right, has Falcon and War Machine in the Avengers, right? So it's like Marvel's moving in that direction. I don't think the key to increasing ethnic diversity in our superhero films, I've said this before and I still believe this truly, I don't think the key to diversifying our comic book movies more is to take existing characters of one ethnicity and to change them, although if you want to do it, that's cool with me too. I think the key is we've got ethnically diverse characters in comic books that you can bring into these movies. They're starting to do that. They're starting to do that. The other thing, and I've said this with female roles in characters, I firmly believe this. Give us new characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Create some brand new.
Right.
This is a great opportunity to create some great brand new characters and bring them in. We don't have to go and take Peter Parker. But once again, if Sony took Peter Parker, and I said this a long time ago, if they want to make Peter Parker black, I'm all for it. Go for it. But I don't necessarily think you should do it or have to do it. But instead of taking Peter Parker and making him African American or Asian or whatever, you know what? Create a new character. Create a bunch of new characters for a new generation and then start introducing them into our movies and things like that. I think that's the better way to do it. But I think ultimately the solution is going to be a mix of different things. Let's take one or two traditionally white characters, change up their ethnicity. Let's bring in some ethnically diverse characters that we have in our comic lores that have never been put on the big screen, give them an opportunity. And let's take this opportunity to create some brand new characters for a new generation, that reflects that diversity that we seem to value so much right now. So I think it's going to be a multi-pronged attack to kind of go after this whole issue.
Right. I totally agree with you. And we saw a white Peter Parker not so long ago. So I think it's hard for an audience to kind of make that separation.
Yes.
Like everyone's
Yeah,
just going to be concentrated. Oh my gosh, they changed his ethnicity. Rather than like thinking of him as an actor, they're just going to be so concentrated on the fact of they changed.
I think you're right.
ethnicity.
It would become a distraction.
Yeah, exactly.
I think at that point it becomes a distraction.
Jamie Smith writes, just wondered if you could speculate on the topic of whether or not we could see another Alien vs. Predator movie somewhere down the line. I know the last two movies didn't go over well with fans or critics, but AVP has worked to great effect in other media such as video games, novels, and comic books. These mediums, although not all brilliant, are certainly ripe with quality source material to pull from for a feature film. Do you think it's something that could happen with the right writer/director, or did AVP have its shot and simply missed it?
I think you nailed it there at the end of the question. I think AVP had its shot and it missed it. It had its window of opportunity and it missed the window and hit the wall instead. Both of those films were bad. I mean, but the first one though made like on a $60 million budget, made like $178 million worldwide. That's profitable. Now, even after you take into account, marketing costs and the theatrical take, and even after you do all that math, that was still a profitable movie. So even though it was a bad movie, it was a very bad movie, it made sense to do another one. The second one, 25% drop in the box office. Whereas the first one made like 172 million. The second one made like 125 million. Like it was like a $50 million dip or a $48 million dip, something like that. And it was equally as bad. So that's unfortunate. Although I will say this. There is a moment, and did you ever see any of the Alien versus Predators movie? There's this one scene that I have to admit really made me laugh out loud. And I think the movie was already really bad by the time this moment happened. And so the fact that this moment happened that was so funny caught me really off guard, and I just laughed out loud. So like really hard. And they're in this pyramid. Okay. For those of you who've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. They find this pyramid and they're going through this ancient period and they find this stash of incredible technology. Right. And a bunch of them are archaeologists and they're just freaking out. And the one guy who's there is more of a logistics guy, not an archaeologist. He's like, what's the big deal? And the other guy says, it's like digging in the desert and finding Moses's old house and stumbling across his DVD collection, which I don't know why.
That's pretty funny.
I don't know why, but I thought that was freaking hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
And it was probably the only redeeming moment of that movie for me. But like I said, they didn't just give it one shot. They gave it two. And both, I believe, from a quality point of view, failed. I'm sure it has its fans out there. All films subjective. That's awesome. But for me, both of them failed. And we talked about their trajectory. It went from this, and it went from being profitable to actually they made a sequel that even cost more to make, and it lost 25% of the box office. It went from being profitable to losing the studio money. And so look, never say never. Anything can happen 5 years from now. But I don't see anybody running up to a studio exec saying, hey, you know what we should do? Another Alien versus Predators. I don't think they're going to do it.
This has nothing to do with Alien versus Predator, but he
Good.
mentioned perfect. He mentioned video games, and I have been seeing a lot of talk of that. About a while ago, we talked about on Mailbag this video game Five Nights at Freddy's, and I've been seeing a lot of talk about it online. What are some updates? Because I tried to look it up, but I couldn't really tell if it was a reliable source or not. But have you heard any like official kind of stuff? I'm really excited.
they're
about
making
it. It looked really good.
Yeah, they're making it, but that's all we know at this point is that they're making it. And we talked about it on the show, and that is a creepy game.
Yeah,
man.
I'm so excited to see it.
I don't think any video game in history has been scary. I don't. And
Okay,
I played
Clock Tower, the video game Clock Tower. When I was a kid, I used to love to play it. The one with the scissors.
I've never played Clock
okay,
Tower.
you need to play
Although
it,
I want to.
so-
You should do that some more. Somebody make an animated GIF of that for me. That I put up on Twitter. That'd be great.
Okay, it is so scary. You need to play
Really?
it. It is so scary, and I think it'd make a great horror movie.
Okay,
too.
well, that's one I haven't played.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other ones that guys traditionally like to point back to saying, this one's scary, this one's scary. I watch this like, no, they create a great creepy atmosphere and everything, but I never felt scared. For whatever reason, I have no idea. This stupid little simple tablet game, Five Nights at Freddy's.
I'm so excited.
I'm laying there. It's like, okay, animatronic things come to life at night. Okay, whatever, big deal. I'm like 5 minutes in. Nope. But
Really?
I was just like,
That's scary.
This is creepy. This is so creep me out. It's the first video game that's ever done that to me. and yet it's also funny.
What console is it for?
Well, I had it on a tablet. I was playing it on tablet, so I was playing it on my Android tablet, and I was just like, it's that great combination of legit scary, but quite funny too. The messages, like I wish somebody, I'm sure it's out there. I got to do a search for it. Somebody must have put out an MP3 or a YouTube video of just all the dialogue left on the answering machine from the original game, because I would just listen to that.
I saw clips
so
of it on
funny.
YouTube, and it sounded a little bit ridiculous.
But if you know it in context, though, it's really funny. It's like, yeah, you might hear some screaming.
Yes, exactly.
I just thought that was
all
so
right,
funny.
I have to play that because it sounds really good.
Oh,
all right,
yes.
That is all the time we have for today, guys. Thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday. And just a reminder, lots of great movies being shown in AMC theaters today. So go ahead and head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theaters, your showtimes, and your ticket information. And if you want a podcast version of this episode, check out the description box below and make sure to click that subscribe button. Thanks to the guys in the room, Dennis and Jonathan. Thanks to John. John, where can people find you online?
You guys can follow me simply on Facebook or on Twitter, just at John Campia.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Ashley Mova. I hope you're having a great weekend, and we will catch you next time, guys. Bye.